Hello, Stitchers. Welcome to Stitch Please, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. I'm your host, Lisa Woolfork. I'm a fourth-generation sewing enthusiast with more than 20 years of sewing experience. I am looking forward to today's conversation, so sit back, relax, and get ready to get your stitch together.
Hey friends, hey, it's Lisa from Black Women Stitch and the Stitch Please podcast. And as I say every week, this is a very special episode because this episode is finishing up what we started last time, sewing and sublimation. I consider myself to be an omni-crafter. I like to make stuff. I just do. I latch hook when I was a little girl. I like to latch hook. There's some things that I didn't do, like I think there was like needle punching or something, but I will pretty much try it. And because I am #me, thank you, Lord, I tend to be pretty good at it. Now, like my brother-in-law likes to say, have you ever met somebody who is good at everything? He's talking about himself, but I always say, I know you ain't talking about yourself because you've got to be talking about me. Anyway, I tend to be good at many things. I am not good at everything. Knitting is not one of the things I am good at. I can do it, but I'm not good at it. Crochet is sorcery. I don't know how, I don't understand it. I don't understand how it works. I think I did make a crochet blanket for my child or as a gift for someone. And that was a time in my life I don't even remember. I think I must have had access to powers that I no longer have because, crochet, mad respect for the crochet girlies and the crochet artists and the crochet boys and the crochet thems, all of them, all the crochets. So difficult. I like to craft. I like to make things. I consider myself an omni-crafter. But what I like most is bringing one hobby or one creative practice to bear on another. I like it when I can mix and match my creative elements. This shows up for me with sewing and sublimation. I sewed for a long time before I bought sublimation into my creative practice at all. I was looking for a way to personalize my kids' clothes when I sent them off to camp or daycare or something, and they would come back without it and no one could tell whose was what. And so I labeled and had labels on the inside of the garments I made for them, as well as for the garments that I might send if, like my mother would send down these really cute little outfits for them, for the boys, for the summer. And I would put their names in the back so that we would know who was who. And I would also label the shirt and the shorts so that we would know that shirt A went with shorts A and shirt B went with shorts B. So these were just simple tricks that I did just to help the boys, to help myself, and just to help us all kind of stay organized. But what it required was the means of production. It required a way to personalize these items effectively and efficiently. Effectively in the sense that the ink wouldn't rub off, it wouldn't, get damaged when it got washed, and efficiently that it wasn't so expensive, that it also wasn't uncomfortable for the kids to wear. So in the search for that solution, I tried lots of different things, including like paint markers, permanent inks, other things that I could kind of write in the seam lines, permanent marker written on the label of some garments. All of this was to hopefully have someone return a jacket to me one day. And then maybe 10 years ago, when I probably didn't need it anymore because the kids were older and weren't losing their clothes on the playground all the time, I came across sublimation printing because what I most was interested in was creating fabric labels or garment labels for the clothes that I made. I was really interested in having personalized garment labels. This was something I was excited for and why I wanted to do sublimation. Before I learned that I could do it at home, I would see people offering printed fabrics where you could upload a word or your name and they would print it onto fabric and mail it to you. So if you wanted to send a phrase, if you wanted to send a couple of sentences, they would put it on the paper. They would take your sentences and they would put it on a fabric that kind of felt like a minky. I still have a few of these left because I was trying to make labels for my nephew's clothing. And I remember this because one of the nephews wasn't even born yet. So, and that child's 11. That's a long time that I've been searching for a fabric printing solution that I could customize, but also wash, and it would be reliable, etc. Sublimation printing fit the bill for that. And that's why I want to talk to you today about the applications of sublimation and the personal projects that I've done, the advantages of sublimation printing, and the disadvantages of sublimation printing. I was drawn to sublimation printing as a way to document my sewing practice. I still have on my shelf in my sewing studio, where I have pictures of my family and my ancestors, I have some sewing tags that were my grandmother's. And it says, "Made with love by Edna." And her name was Edna. And y'all, my Nana's name was Edna. And I was such a dumb child that I thought her real name was Nana. I thought her real name was Nana. But then when I would see the tags in some of the clothes she would make for me, and it said "Made with love by Edna," or she always said "Made with love by Nana" in the tags she made for us. So I find these "Made with love by Edna" tags that I have right now still. These are the ones that I find so precious. These are the ones that she must have put in the garments she made for other people. The garments that my grandmother made for me and my sisters usually included a tag. And the tag said "Made with love by Nana." And it was such a special thing that I appreciate now that I didn't appreciate as a kid. And it was a way for me to remember that my grandmother had put her creative art and energy and talent and love into making something that was only for me and that was made with me in mind. And that she wanted me to know that, and that the garment label was a way to communicate that. And so when I inherited her fabric stash, y'all, that is a whole nother story. That was when my grandmother was coming to live with my mother. I think my grandmother had maybe turned 88 or 90. And then my mother was like, hey, my grandmother was still driving at 90. Yeah, she drove for quite some time. But having her moving with my mother required her to kind of empty out her house. My mother would take those stuff, the fabric, the magazines, or whatever, and take it to the Goodwill. And my Nana would go back over to that Goodwill and buy that stuff all over again. She would buy it all over again. And then she'd say, "Sister done took my stuff over to the Goodwill, and I had to go back. I was going through the Goodwill and looking, and I looked over and I saw that looked just like what I had." Yo, my mother ended up mailing my grandmother's things to me rather than take them to the Goodwill. She was like, "I don't want to put them in any Goodwill in this entire county because Nana will find it." So she mailed it to me. And that was like 25 years ago because I was pregnant at the time. This is a very long aside to say that these garment labels struck a chord in my imagination. And they have always meant something about the history of a garment, about the love it communicates. And I wanted to replicate that for my children with the things that I made for them. And I wanted to have it for myself as well. I wanted to document my own makes in the same way. Sublimation printing came right on time for that. As we've discussed before, sublimation printing requires polyester. And I do a lot of sewing with knit fabrics that have a high polyester content. One of my favorite fabric bases is cotton lycra, which is a blend of cotton and polyester in a certain form that has higher elasticity. It has great color vibrancy, but you can't really sublimate on it because it has a high cotton percentage. Hey friends, hey, I know you're enjoying the audio version of Stitch Please, and thanks so much for listening. But you're missing out on all the great stuff going on behind the scenes. That's why I'm inviting you to join our Black Women Stitch Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, you can see all the video versions of the podcast. Plus, you get some amazing swatch cards. You know how much I love these swatch cards. Look, see how cool these are? Oh wait, you can't see them because you are not yet on the Patreon. So when you join the Patreon, you'll be able to see this, me showing you these amazing cards. We also have some great perks at the other tiers, like discounts, swag, office hours, and more. Don't be the last sewist in the group now. Head over to patreon.com/blackwomenstitch or click the link in the show notes and become a Patreon supporter today. We truly cannot do this without you. So thank you so much. But there was a time when I was using a lot of fabrics that had a very high polyester count. These are structured things like, what were the things? There are things that have high polyester count, including satin pillowcases and do-rags. These things that you buy from the hair store that say that they're 100% satin, being 100% satin is like being 100% knit. That is not a thing. 100% satin is not a fabric type. It's 100% polyester. It's a satin, but you could have silk satin. You could have a cotton satin, which is called a sateen. You can have all types of different satin because that's just the weave of a fabric, the finish of the fabric, how it kind of comes out. What it is made of is the thing that's important. And just know that if you see something that says a silk do-rag or something like that, and it is $4, I am certain it is not silk. I am certain it is polyester, and they have to say. So be sure to check your products. If you're someone that, doesn't care, I am someone who does not care. I absolutely have a polyester do-rag, a polyester bonnet. I'm totally fine with that. It's not real silk. And I do have some that are real silk, which actually feel more drying than the polyester satin. So that's another odd thing because silk is another finish. I mean, silk is a fiber that can be finished in a variety of ways, some silky ways, as well as some that are a bit more rough. When I really got into sublimation, I was using scraps of fabric that I already had lying around. It was important to me that I didn't invest like so much in this new hobby, which is an expensive startup. I had been making an A-line swing dress. It was almost like a circle skirt. The bodice was a typical V-front bodice with a high neck and either a short sleeve or a long sleeve. It could be a one-piece front or a two-piece front. Then there was a circle skirt attached to that bodice with some pockets. I really liked there was a neoprene style polyester fabric that Joanne had, and I really liked it. And it actually happened to be on clearance. And it was this white and black, nearly animal print. It wasn't fully animal print, but it had these fun kind of organic looking spots on it. And I just kind of fell in love with it. I made a dress from it. I think I made a bra from it. I made some underwear from it, which was a mistake because I tell you what, neoprene is great for a nice structured skirt, but it does not breathe at all. It does not breathe at all. And I did not last very long. They were lovely. I did a beautiful job making them, and they were not to be worn, period. But that meant I had a lot of leftover and awkward shaped pieces. This let me practice using the fabrics that I had, especially since my goal was to make labels. I could use just an index card size of fabric in order to make that work. And so that was a really efficient way to begin making these personal projects and some of the things that I've made with sublimation. And here's a list of more things that I've made with sublimation. I feel like I've made so much stuff and I just love it. And that's why I wanted to share with you what I have made with sublimation over the years and how it has really positively shaped my sewing practice.
You've been listening to Stitch Please, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. We appreciate you joining us this week and every week for stories that center Black women, girls, and femmes in sewing. We invite you to join the Black Women Stitch Patreon community with giving levels beginning at $5 a month. Your contributions help us bring the Stitch Please podcast to you every week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. And come back next week and we'll help you get your stitch together.